Can everybody hear me now? Oh, yay, good, sound's back. Great, thank you so much. Okay, so to start over, my name is Andrea and I'm the Recruitment and Admissions Officer for the Faculty of Information. Thank you all so very much for joining today's event. If you have attended any of our previous sessions, I hope you are finding it useful and enjoyable so far. Here with me today, I have our Assistant Dean, Stephanie Rose, who will be able to help answer questions as well throughout the session. If you did just come from the Double Blue session and you did have more questions about that option, please feel free to ask us questions about that option as well. We also have some of our students here who are going to introduce themselves a little later as well. And then you'll be able to chat with them further after the presentation. So if throughout the presentation you do have any questions, please feel free to jot it down in the chat box as you have already been writing, so that's great. And I'm going to get started. I'm going to turn off my camera just so you're not distracted by what's happening in the background there. And hopefully you can all see my screen there as well. And just to start off with a statement of acknowledgement. So we wish to acknowledge this land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and most recently the Mississaugas of Credit River. Today, this meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. So today's session, or this specific session, is going to look at admissions, money matters, and careers for the Masters of Information program specifically. We did have a museum study session earlier this morning. If you did miss that session and you're interested in that, some of the information is similar and will overlap, but the recording of that session will be available after the event, so not to worry. So I'm going to start off with a little bit about admissions. Okay, so applications are now open and they are available through the School of Graduate Studies website. So if you go to apply.sgs.utoronto.ca, that is where you will find the online application. So apply by January 31st if you'd like to automatically be considered for any entrance awards and scholarships. Admissions awards and scholarships are highly competitive, so we do require a minimum A- average, and all of your application materials, including letters of recommendation, so those need to be received by January 31st. So not just the contact information entered into your application, but the reference itself has to actually be received by January 31st. Otherwise, the regular deadline is March 31st, and the deadline for your supporting documents is April 15th. That being said, I do not recommend waiting until the final deadline to apply, as we do admit on a rolling basis, and the program may become full by the time your application is received. And just because you've met the minimum requirement doesn't mean that you will automatically receive an award. So these awards, as I mentioned, are highly competitive. So I'd say probably about 20% of our students receive some sort of funding, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about funding a little bit later. Okay, next. All right, so what are we looking for in terms of your supporting documents? We accept students from all academic backgrounds into our program. So we do have students with a background in social sciences, humanities, computer science, engineering, finance, history, English, and so on. So we don't favor certain courses or backgrounds. For GPA, we're looking for about a B+ average, and we calculate that in two ways. Either your CGPA, so your cumulative GPA over 4 years, or your final year average, and we take whichever of the two is highest. That's also how we calculate your GPA for the admission scholarships and average calculation. So I saw earlier on there was a question regarding the CGPA for the admissions awards. So that is calculated using the same method as admission to the program. But for admission, we're looking for a minimum B+. Keep in mind your final year average is not necessarily the courses you've completed in your last year of study. So we do take your most recent 3rd or 4th year courses and count back until we have a year's worth of senior level courses to calculate your final year GPA. And we do look at files on a holistic basis, which means we consider the entire application equally. So your GPA, your resume, your references, your statement of intent, all looked at equally when making a decision. For your transcripts, at the time of the application, we only ask for your unofficial transcript to make a decision. So you're going to upload copies of all of your post-secondary transcripts to your online applicant portal. And then if you're offered admission, the offer will be conditional upon receiving an official copy of your transcript. In order for a transcript to be considered official, it must be sent to the Faculty of Information directly from your institution in a sealed, unopened envelope, and this will be due by the end of August. We do require 2 academic letters of recommendation. So as soon as you save the referee information to your applicant profile and pay the application fee, the School of Graduate Studies will automatically send your referee a fillable referee form to complete. And this automatically gets uploaded to your applicant file once they've filled out the form. Please keep in mind, because I get this question a lot, they will not receive the form until you've paid the application fee. You are able to submit a 3rd optional reference if you wish, which could be academic or professional. It's up to you. And then if you last graduated more than 5 years ago, you may substitute professional letters of reference. If you are going to submit a professional reference, just let your referees know that they should be focusing on skills that are relevant within a graduate level program or in an academic environment. So skills such as your critical thinking skills, problem solving skills, research, writing, and communication skills. We also require an academic resume or CV, and here you're going to want to include information like your educational background, relevant personal and work experience that are both paid and unpaid, any publications that you might have written, any professional activities you're involved in, such as committees or associations, any awards, honors, grants, and fellowships that you might have received. Look at some of the questions here. Okay. And then for English proficiency, for applicants where English is not their first language, an English proficiency test result will need to be submitted. If you have completed an undergraduate or graduate degree from an institution where English is used as the medium of instruction and examination, then an English proficiency test may not be required. So you will be required at that point to provide a letter from your institution that verifies that that English was used as the medium of instruction and examination. Okay, now I want to talk a little bit more about the statement of intent. So as a future participant in the information fields, you'll be responsible for the management of information, knowledge, and culture in an ever-changing world. And it is important to the Faculty of Information that we are educating and empowering information professionals that are and will be grounded in the values of equity, diversity, and inclusion. So we encourage you to reflect on these concepts as you prepare your application. To get a sense of the qualities that we're looking for in an applicant, the main themes of the questions that you're required to answer as part of your statement of intent really demonstrate the qualities that the Faculty of Information feel are important in a potential candidate. The statement this year is new, so if you logged in previously, maybe last year or over the summer to maybe prepare or start thinking about applying to the program, you would have noticed the old guidelines. Make sure you are logging onto the website and looking at what those new guidelines are because they have changed. So there are specific questions we want you to answer within your statement of intent, particularly the second part. It is brand new. So just pay close attention to those requirements. So in the first part of your essay, we'd like to learn more about your vision for graduate studies and your subsequent professional career. So what made you decide to apply to the Faculty of Information? How do your academic, professional, or personal experiences and future aspirations align with the MI program? What topics, problems, or questions would you like to explore during your studies? What are your career goals? Are you interested in co-op and why? Upon graduation, how do you see yourself contributing to the information industry? What does it mean to you to be an information professional, and so on. Here's where you also want to mention if there was a course or some courses, or maybe your GPA was below the requirement for the program, or slightly below the requirement for the program, or there's some discrepancies, in your transcript or your record, academic record. Is where you want to provide a brief explanation of that. So we want to know, what have you learned from that? What are you going to do differently? And just be able to provide a brief explanation in that section of your statement on some of those discrepancies that may be in your academic record. In the second part, you will select 1 or 4 questions to respond to that surround various themes, and these themes are around teamwork, equity, diversity, and inclusion, coping with change, and managing multiple priorities. And here we hope to better understand your interpersonal skills and self-reflective capabilities. So you should feel free to provide examples from your personal, professional, and academic experiences. Responses to both of these questions should be no longer than 4 pages double-spaced total. So that's for both questions. So not 4 pages each question, but in total. And you should make it clear which questions you are responding to separately. So you can do question 1 and then question 2, point 1 or something, whichever question you're answering. Okay, so a little bit on the fees. This chart here is the cost of the program for 1 year of the program. So this is based on 2020-21 amounts, and the School of Graduate Studies will post the new tuition amounts typically in July. It'll roughly be around the same amount as you see here. You don't have to pay the entire year. You can pay per term, so at the start of the fall or start of the winter terms. The MI program is available on a part-time basis, so part-time students will pay the equivalent of full-time program fees, so the cost is not less. Payments are just spread out over a longer period of time. So if you don't make a payment over the summer, you will likely have a balance of degree fee at the end of your studies that you will be required to pay, which will be the remaining amount of the owed tuition. And for students here in this chat who have their personal questions about their own personal situation, please save those to send to me privately at admissions.ischool@utoronto.ca, and I'll be sure to answer your specific questions about your specific situation there. Okay, so a little bit about finances. Students in professional master's programs, including the Masters of Information, typically fund their educational expenses through a variety of programs. And I've broken it down into 3 general categories to hopefully help make it a bit easier to understand. Financial aid is typically based on financial need. Awards and scholarships are typically merit-based, and some do require a separate application, and employment on or off campus. So to start with financial aid. Most of our students do receive OSAP or some other form of government loan if you're located outside of Ontario. So for students receiving OSAP, your financial need information will be sent to us directly. But for students receiving out-of-province student loans, you will need to complete the out-of-province provincial aid application form that is found on our website under Money Matters to be eligible for other financial assistance. The PMFA is a grant, and it attempts to fill a portion of the financial gap for full-time students who've received the maximum amount of government financial aid, but whose funding doesn't cover all of the university costs. Emergency grants, so if you do encounter an unexpected emergency situation, like your house flooded, you lost your apartment, you can't pay for food or your month's rent, you are able to apply for an emergency grant. Students with permanent disabilities may receive funds through the Canada Student Grant for persons with permanent disabilities as part of their OSAP funding. In addition to that, grants are also available through the Ontario Bursary for Students with Disabilities and the Canada Student Grant for Services and Equipment for Persons with Permanent Disabilities. And this will help with disability-related supports and services. And then you may wish to also apply for a line of credit. The University of Toronto has partnered with Scotiabank to provide a preferred interest rate to U of T students through the Scotia Professional Plan. Of course, you can apply for a line of credit with whichever financial institution you're most comfortable with, but just know that that is an option. So on to awards and scholarships. I've already spoken about the automatic entrance awards. Again, you're automatically considered for these awards based on your application to the program, as I mentioned before. So as long as all of your supporting documents, including references, are submitted by January 31st, you will be automatically considered for these awards. And then we're looking for a minimum A- average, final year CGPA. Again, not all applicants will receive an automatic entrance award. In addition to automatic entrance awards, there are additional scholarships that can be found through the School of Graduate Studies website, as well as the University of Toronto website under Future Students. And they typically do require a separate application. So make sure you are looking into what those eligibility criteria and application procedures are. Applicants can also apply for an external government award, such as an OGS, the Ontario Graduate Scholarship, or the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council of Canada. So that's the SSHRC award. Deadlines are typically earlier than your application to the program. So you want to make sure you are considering what those specific deadlines are. So for example, the OGS, the deadline is March 1st. The SSHRC award, it was December 1st. So if you didn't apply for a SSHRC award this year, you are still able to apply while in your first year to receive the funds for your second year. So just make sure you're paying attention to those deadlines if you're admitted to the program in your first year. And then there are other SGS or School of Graduate Studies or faculty awards that you could be awarded, and they can include things like in-course or current student scholarships, completion awards when you graduate, travel and conference awards, international student awards, and so on. And then finally, employment. Many of our students do work part-time while studying. The WorkStudy program is a great option, and these are on-campus jobs, and it is convenient because you're already on campus and can work between your classes or whenever it's convenient for you. The application for these WorkStudy positions opens in early August, and we will let you know when they become available. And of course, any off-campus employment can be an option for you as well. And then please have a look at our website for the general timeline on big items that you should keep an eye on throughout the year. We do provide a very detailed timeline under Money Matters, so make sure you are paying attention to that chart as well to access additional resources. Okay. So now I'm going to move on to career services. Hopefully your questions have been answered throughout the presentation, or the admission side of the presentation. There's a question I just saw here about the Executive Master of Information program. That is no longer an option. It used to be an option a few years back, but it is currently not being offered. And no, there is no additional charge if you do take courses over the optional summer term. Okay, so career services. The Career Services Office jointly works to support students and the professional development. So their non-academic side of professional development, as well as our employee partners and alumni relationships, and putting all these pieces together to help students, help set students up for success. And here you'll find a list of some of the services that we provide through Career Services. So we do offer one-on-one advising. Our careers officer is available to help with resume, cover letter review, mock interviews. They can help facilitate networking and alumni events, or they do facilitate networking and alumni events, and they collaborate with our dedicated alumni officer for these events. We are very lucky within the Faculty of Information to have our very own careers office that's just specifically for iSchool students. So not only do you have access to the Career Services office within the iSchool, but also the General Careers office at U of T as well. So you can access both services, both events, and both opportunities there. We also host a series of workshops. So for example, developing a professional and personal narrative, sustainable networking, resume cover letter workshops, and to help you articulate your skills when speaking with professionals. So the goal is to prepare you to network effectively and become embedded in your communities. So we do that through a combination of events, workshops, one-on-one advising, and so on. The Career Services Office also sends out a weekly newsletter and will oftentimes email out any opportunities as they become available. We also work closely with the Faculty of Information Alumni Association to help facilitate the Ask an Alum and Job Shadowing program. So you can actually participate in the Ask an Alum program right now as a prospective student. So you don't actually have to wait until you're admitted to the program or that you are a current student. We do have a comprehensive list of alumni who volunteer to speak to some of our students, and you can ask them about career pathways, course recommendations, and so on. So feel free to go onto the alumni tab, Ask Alum program, and reach out, fill out the Google form, and you can reach out to some of our alum through there. So Career Services also manages the internal job site as well as the external job site, which is more for full-time employment, as well as the co-op job board. You will have access to the central, as I mentioned, U of T Career Services office in addition to our services, as I mentioned earlier. So just to talk a little bit more about our work integrated learning opportunities. For those of you who attended the museum study session this morning, you'll see one of the pathways here, the MI program option, is not available for CDP students, the combined degree program, just because it won't be feasible. You will not have the bandwidth to take this on. However, you will still be eligible for the practicum and talent options or museum internship courses. So here, both the co-op and the practicum are credit bearing. So you will earn credit while you gain that practical hands-on experience. The talent program is not credit bearing. So think of it as a part-time continuing opportunity. So it's 15 hours a week for 2 years. And even though it is a partnership with the Toronto Academic Libraries, you don't have to be an LIS student to apply. So if you have an interest in academic libraries and you're in UX or archives or any of our other concentrations, you should still consider applying. To be eligible for the talent program, your application to the MI program, including all supporting documents, are required by January 31st. For the co-op and the practicum, these are both optional, and you can participate in up to 2 full-time paid work terms for the co-op. And the way the co-op works is it's usually in the fall and winter terms when you're admitted to the program. You're working on your eligibility criteria, so you're completing courses. There's a GPA requirement, and then in January we'll be able to make the decisions based on the work and the interest that you've shown in the fall semester. And of course, it is conditional upon the completion of those foundational courses in the winter term as well. In January is when you will know whether you've been accepted into co-op. So after you've declared interest in the fall and have some time to prepare, there is a prerequisite course that is optional and is called the Emerging Professionals course. If you don't plan on participating in this course, there is an alternate pathway as well. The co-op is open to all concentrations. You can plan to meet with our career advisors to consult about whether this is the right pathway for you. So for example, do you have to take the 2 co-op courses, or can you take a hybrid of co-op and practicum, or if you want to use those credits towards taking extra electives instead to increase the breadth and depth of your knowledge. They can help you with making those decisions. For the practicum option, there are 2 courses available. The difference between the practicum and the co-op, practicum is part-time, it is unpaid, and you'll usually see the difference in the types of organizations that participate. Usually private industry or organizations like banking and consulting are not able to participate due to the nature of the practicum and it being part-time and unpaid. Once you're admitted to the program, during orientation, we will give you more information about these options. You do not have to make any of these decisions right away, so don't worry about them now. So you're not applying to co-op right now with your application to the MI program. So especially since both the co-op and the practicum do require some prerequisite courses, you have time to think about your options. It is usually not until the summer between your first and second year that you're going to be able to participate in some of these offerings anyway. And then just to touch a little bit on some of the changes that have been made this year due to the pandemic, we did want to be as flexible as possible to allow our students to continue with remote completion with the different work integrated learning courses. So for the co-op, we actually reduced the minimum hourly requirement for one term from 4 months to 2 months. That was the minimum. So students were still able to go for the full term if that was an option to them. This provided a longer runway for students to apply for work positions or different opportunities, and it also allowed our employment partners to adjust so that they would be able to ramp up with their hiring needs. All of the work integrated learning opportunities were also delivered remotely this year. So the question about part-time, full-time, you have to actually specifically apply to either the MI program part-time or full-time. You are also able to change your mind. So if you started part-time, for example, and you wanted to switch to full-time while you're in the program, you can do that, or vice versa. And you're going to talk to the assistant registrar to arrange that. Okay, so this slide. These are the results of a survey that we collected from our alumni about a year after they graduate, and we do this every year. So keep in mind their results from a year after they've graduated, and we ask them about their career and employment outcomes. So we do ask like things like, do you have a full-time job? Is it relevant and meaningful? Because we don't want to just help you secure any job, we want to make sure that we're helping you secure the right job. So we're always working on trying to make that blue bubble, this blue bubble, a bit bigger, so that you're actually enrolled in a full-time job, if that is what you're interested in, of course, and that you were able to secure that either prior to graduation or shortly after. Okay, and this slide just gives you some examples of career pathways, and these are only a few examples and does not reflect all of the opportunities available by any means. We know that the sector is constantly changing and evolving, so there are many more options available. The career outcomes documents found on our website, so under careers, career outcomes, will help you better understand this more, and will as well as explore some of the job titles that are available, salary expectations, and so on. So make sure you are checking that out and exploring some of those opportunities for after you graduate through our surveys that we conduct. So that is all for me. No, you can't do a thesis and a co-op just because the demands of both would just, it would not be feasible. You would not be able to complete the requirements for both the thesis and the co-op option. But that being said, you are still able to participate in a practicum if you wish. If you wanted to do the thesis option, for example, there's still other work integrated learning opportunities built into the program if you wish to still do the thesis option. So don't worry if you're not able to do the co-op option. Okay, so that is it for me for the admissions and careers side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pass it on to one of our students, Abigail, who's going to talk to you about the student experience side.
Hi, thank you, Andrea. Hi, everyone. Hope you're all having a good weekend. As you can see, my name is Abigail. I come from a social sciences/humanities background in global health, and I'm in the user experience design concentration. And from May to December last year in 2020, I was an experience design intern at Autodesk. If you've heard of AutoCAD, they're the company that made it, but they also make a bunch of other software. And I worked on Maya, which is one of their 3D graphics ones. And it's used by many media entertainment studios like Pixar, Naughty Dog, Blue Sky Studios, and more. In the summer, my main focus was conducting remote usability tests, so more of UX research, which meant I was testing with both internal and external participants to try out upcoming features. This involved me having to learn how to use Maya, which was the software that I was working on at a basic level. I had to understand the prototypes that someone else had built. And then from that understanding and from collaborating with my teammates, I designed a usability test, including a moderator script and surveys. And I also got to reach out to a variety of communities and groups to connect with the right users to participate in our sessions. But the best and most fun part was actually conducting the usability test sessions. Even though they were done remotely over Zoom, it was still great really seeing people respond to our team's work. Among other meetings, I also participated in our design teams meetings and design critiques, which are really a great way to see how designers work on other parts of Maya and to participate by providing feedback. And what started off as a really UX research oriented role in the summer transitioned into a more design focused role this past fall. I was able to design user stories, which are commonly used in software development to describe features that we want to build. And based on these stories, I redesigned some software features that will ultimately make it easier for 3D artists at any levels, like beginners and professionals, to do their work. What I really liked most about this experience was realizing the kind of company and culture that I want to work for. Being a part of such a supportive, encouraging, and safe environment made it really easy for me to grow my skills, talk about my interests, explore those interests, and take part of many opportunities that I didn't initially associate with the role, such as event planning. Leading up to my internship, I have to say that the most relevant course that I took was what is now known as course code INF 2171, or Usability Assessment. So usability assessment taught me how to conduct research in a structured way that was directly relevant to the UX research that I ended up doing this past summer. I learned how to create a usability test plan, how to write a moderator script, how to do user interviews without asking leading questions, and of course, how to assess and evaluate a product. That course was just so super useful to what I did. Another course that really stood out to me in the faculty, which I actually took in the evenings last fall during my internship, was Accessibility and Inclusive Design, or course code INF 2165. It made me aware of the gaps that exist in software design, which will help me build better products for everyone, not just for those that we assume is the average user. Currently, I'm in my last semester, and I'm really loving my courses, which include exciting subjects such as mixed reality, design and marginality, and UX for video games. That's the end of my part. Best of luck with your application process, and if you have any further questions, feel free to join me and other students in the student experience panel at 2:30, or feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Next, we have Alexandra from, oops, let's switch. There we go. Alexandra from the Masters of Information Student Council.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? I'll turn on my video. Oh no, haven't been talking this whole time and you couldn't hear me? So sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you were coming back.
Oops, so sorry about that. I had thought that I had pressed the microphone button. I apologize. My name's Alex. I'll start from the very beginning. Um, sorry about that again. I am on the MISC, the Master of Information Student Council, as their VP of Communications. And that really means that I'm the one who controls all of our social media. And so you can see all of our Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc. handles on the slides. And we also send out weekly emails to all of our students so that they have the information they need about events and such that we host. Really, MISC is here for the students, run by the students. We're a student body that, especially in a virtual land that we're living in right now, tries to connect as best as we can with our students, either through social media or through office hours that we host. If you have questions, please do feel free to direct them to either email or social media handles, or can reach out to us directly. At the MISC councils, we have many different positions that you could apply for. We have the executive roles, like mine, the executive vice president, which is a first-year position specifically, as well as many other non-executive positions, like first-year rep for mental health committees, different working groups, like you could apply to be on the diversity working group or the part-time working group if you were a part-time student. So you can go see all the different positions on our website. The elections usually take place in September for most of the roles, but we're really here for you. We try to host different events, different clubs days, and try to give that experience that we all want in our master's program. As an offside, I also am part of the talent program and just finished a practicum last semester. So if you have questions on either of those two, sorry, I'm also a second year in the library and information science stream. So if you have any questions about any of those three experiences, I am more than happy to answer questions there as well.
Great, perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so that ends this presentation, this session. So I can see there were a lot of questions that have come in. So feel free to keep asking your questions, and our assistant dean is here to help answer any of those questions as well. We are going to get started with our next session in just 2 minutes. So if you wanted to stay here and have some questions answered, please feel free to do that. Otherwise, please feel free to leave the session and join our next session, which is the MI program overview session. For those of you who do have personal questions, please feel free to email us at admissions.ischool@utoronto.ca. And we'll be happy to answer your questions there. But if you are leaving us today, thank you so much for joining today's event. And if you're continuing on, we look forward to seeing you in the next sessions for this afternoon. So thank you again very much for attending today, and we hope to read your applications in the future.